What is up guys, Speed here, and today I have a guide of position for MIRANA. I know there's a lot of position for MIRANAs running around your pubs nowadays, and it's actually been pretty popular within the pro scene. So I thought why not follow Tim's, one of the best players in the world, on his journey on MIRANA. And the reason, well actually the main reason why I want to make this video is because I think a lot of people look at MIRANA and they look at it backwards. They see this hero as, you know, the ganker, the roamer that hits 5 arrows on mid and wins mid single-handedly. But how I want to spin MIRANA around and make you guys think about it is as an XP collector that has a lot of nukes in teamfights, right? You're kind of like more of a team fighter that should be looking to get farm at any cost possible, and that's exactly what we're seeing through Tim's gameplay. And also just as a heads up guys, if you like the content that I make on YouTube, it's not all the content I make. I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, but over on gameleap.com there's a link down below that will get you to there. But I also make a lot of content on that website as well. We also have a ton of other pros making content similar to me that you probably haven't heard from. Content creators such as Yamson, Stars, Frempo, and there's going to be a lot of cool guides coming out, so if you guys are interested in that, I recommend you click the link down below. It's really worth it in my opinion, as it's super educational, right? YouTube, sometimes I do stuff for entertainment, but over there on the website, it's almost all educational. Alright, getting right off the bat here, I really like the starting item build of Tim's. I think this is probably the best build you could imagine for trading. It's 6 tangos, a circlet, and 4 branches, as well as a backpack clarity. And the backpack clarity is very important, so don't forget the backpack clarity. Getting into the laning stage, there's only really a couple things you can do as MIRANA. I don't recommend you start mid. I actually hate this philosophy that MIRANA is this hero that just goes for arrows mid. On top of that, the level 1 arrow was nerfed pretty significantly. Sacred Arrow is now only a 3.5 second stun at max and 60 damage, which is pretty underwhelming. It's not terrible, but it's slightly underwhelming. So instead what he does is he kind of just chills top, waiting for his support to show to potentially punish them. On top of that, what he's doing right now, and this is a bit advanced, this is also a bit of speculation on my part, but I always like to give you guys my thoughts, is he's hiding in the trees to make the enemy team afraid. He wants to make sure he can scout out the enemy team's rotation, and on top of that, make them fear the arrow. He wants the Storm Spear to be afraid, and maybe their bottom lane also to be afraid of a potential arrow. Once he realizes that he no longer needs to hide, he's going to scout out, gets a D-ward, pretty cool stuff, and then proceeds to go for a pull. And this is generally what I recommend and suggest you guys all do on your position 4 heroes. Do not just sit in the trees all game. Don't just, try to harass the enemy the entire time. Pull the lane back as much as you can. On top of that, he's going to follow up and arrow this range creep, and that's one of the best things to do. Now, I understand in your 2K, 3K matches, especially if it's SEA apparently. Apparently if it's SEA, they'll just kill you if you do that. But this is a good thing to do because it makes sure that you secure the range creep, right? That's great. It won't get denied. And on top of that, it's going to give you a creep advantage, making it hard for the enemy team to trade into you. And really the main thing I want to stress here is that he gets given a free lane. And this is going to happen sometimes in your pubs. Not because people are rotating around and swapping lanes like TNC is, but because people die. And whenever your cores die, please take all of the XP and last hits. I see a lot of position 4 players who act like they're, oh, I'm a support, so I can't take the farm. No, the goal of Dota is to grow as a hero, get stronger. And that's exactly what he's doing here. Now that it's 1 minute in, he makes a stack and arrows the large satyr creep. And this is what you want to do every single game as position for MIRANA, in my personal opinion. It's the best way to play the hero in my experience and from what I've watched. So he makes a stack, right, at 155, arrows the big creep, kills the small one, and now he's level 2 and 3/4, 2 minutes in. That's also obviously because of the lane rotation. And he continues to do that, right, did go for a side pull, gets the wave back, and this is kind of how high MMR players function. They increase efficiency, look for harass, and then of course, arrow the big creeps. Following that, we have one of the coolest plays of this entire game. I mean, honestly, it surprised me that he had enough damage here, but he's trading with the Chen, right, has a really good trading build, got the boots now, trying to kill off the Chen creep, and now all of a sudden with a really well-timed arrow based on the Chen backing into this crevice, which is important, right? He didn't throw it here. He throws it when the Chen gets stuck. Because why does the Chen get stuck here? If he walks to the right, bumps into a tree, so it makes the arrow pretty reliable, and that's exactly what happens. The Chen can't get out of the way, follows it up with the Starfall, and gets first blood. I mean, really insane stuff. But you can do that to a ton of supports. You could kill Lions like that, Rubik's AAs. All it takes is amping your XP and getting level 3 way before they are even close to level 3. Following that, he's actually going to go into the jungle and start arrowing big creeps with his clarity pop. Make sure you do, obviously, buy a lot of clarities on MIRANA, otherwise you just can't function. I think it's that simple. Your hero doesn't function without clarities. Now he's fortunate enough to get a regen rune in this game, and it's very important to know what he does with it. He throws this arrow, making sure he can continue to farm, and of course, following that, I actually wish he used Starfall with the regen rune there. I don't understand why he didn't, to be honest, but regardless, gonna continue to amp his farm. And this is the big thing to me. Now at minute 4, he's level 4. Which is huge, right guys? Because all of a sudden, your Starstorm can do up to, what is it like? It's 75% damage on the second one, meaning it's what, like 100 damage nuke? My math is off, that's 66%. I'm not gonna do the math, but it basically means you can deal like around 275 damage to people with your Starfall if you hit them with both ticks. And now for the first time in the game, he's gonna make a rotation mid. Because of TA traps, he knows that the Storm Spirit is mid, and assuming that he is slowed, he goes for the kill. And that's a very important thing to note. He bases the arrow off of slow. Anytime you're in a game of Dota 2 and you're playing a hero like MIRANA that has some sort of a skill shot, please try to synergize with heroes that have slows and stuns. I know this is one of the most basic tips I could give you in Dota, and yet people just don't do it consistently. Now you're gonna see some of the crazy stuff in the game. So he gets an Arcane Rune and he's no joke pressuring a Storm Spirit. A position for MIRANA is the same level as Storm Spirit, and I wanna ask you guys, who do you think is going to have more impact? Your typical 3k MIRANA that's level 2 at the 8-minute mark, or Tim's, who's level 5? Now of course some circumstances have helped him, such as the lane swaps, but for the most part it's because he got that first blood and he's been killing camps all over the place. And he's no joke able to solo pressure a Storm Spirit, right? He almost solo kills him, at least sends him back to base here, forcing a Void Spirit rotation, and this is what we call impact, guys. This is what MIRANA can do if you get ahead and you get levels. You run at people, force rotations, and then get out with your leaps. Do you see how effective that can be? It really is super potent because your hero is unbelievably difficult to kill. And Tim's is really stressing the point here with this item build that he wants to create space, get XP, and be a frontline nuker that is super strong in the early game. He wants to take over the early and mid game, and this is how you do it. You buy a wand, you buy bracers, you buy stats and boots, and then you buy clarities. The next thing I want to mention is synergy with your ultimate. So in this case, I just really want to say that you should try to get your team to play around your ultimate. It's similar to Smokes of Deceit, but basically this is the best smoke in the game because people realize, oh, we're Moonlight Shadowed, I guess we're making a play. And now it's not nearly as good as Smoke. In some regards it is, I guess. But in terms of catching people off guard, Smoke is a bit better. All I'm trying to say though is that your ultimate gets your team to work together, and that's a super strong capability, and you want to always tell your team like, hey guys, I have my ultimate, let's make a play. Something as basic as this is a very powerful thing to have in Dota. On top of that, please note that he maxed out the Starfall before Arrow. I know a lot of people who max out Arrow, and it's just frankly bad. You don't want to look at this hero as the arrow hero. A lot of people do, but I actually prefer looking at MIRANA as more of a Starfall hero into the mid game, and hopefully you guys kind of see what I'm saying with that. This spell does an insane amount of damage because it's simply an AoE nuke that basically can deal up to 500 damage to a single target. On top of that, I'd also like to mention that I want you guys to look at MIRANA as a tank. Yes, if you go these item builds, you're super difficult to kill, and therefore you can bait out spells, tank right clicks, and make the enemy team waste a lot of time on our hero. And upcoming here is a bit of an efficiency trick that we see from Tim's. I really like this play because once again, it's going to get him to his mech timing, and getting a mech before like the 16 or 17 minute mark is fantastic, especially considering the fact that he has mana boots, bracer, and a wand. So he's going to pull the two camps together, Starfalls in between them, and I know a lot of heroes can do this type of thing, but it's important to remember, even on a support, you can take farm here and there. I'm not saying jungle the entire game, in fact he even lets his Legion finish off the camp, but here and there if your team is not making a play or lanes don't need to be shoved because your teammates are doing it, well, sure you can do that efficiency play. For the most part though, I want to mention in your average 2 to 3k MMR pub, you should be very focused on taking the hard farm as MIRANA. 9 times out of 10, there's going to be an open lane to farm if you're below 4k MMR, and because of that, MIRANA is actually very powerful in my eyes if you learn how to identify that farm and then turn it into an early mech. Upcoming here, we're going to see a pretty big overextension by TNC. I mean, they try to catch the enemy team off guard until they can burst the storm. Unfortunately, he gets used up into the air, so it doesn't work. But what I want to show off here is that he can solo zone the Earthshaker out of the fight, right? So he goes on Boomy, on the Earthshaker, and with the Starfall, as well as this arrow, wand, and mech, he's able to just zone the Earthshaker, right? Earthshaker's a hero that wants to go in. On top of that, he ends up getting gone on by the Void Spirit, but he doesn't care. I want to ask you a question. Does your average MIRANA at 17 minutes live all this damage? Obviously not. Obviously not, but because of his item build, he's able to live, right? He's able to just tank everything, completely wasting the time of the Earthshaker and the Void Spirit, and that's what I like to call impact. A lot of supports never ever can tank spells, they insta-die, and they're like, oh, it's fine. Why aren't my cores carrying me? Why do I never, get good cores? Maybe it's because you don't actually have impact in teamfights. You just kind of walk in and die, and you make excuses for the reason why you don't have any net worth or proper impact. Upcoming here, let's talk about a core concept of MIRANA. How to hit arrows. Well, how do you hit arrows with this hero? What you want to do is, basically what you want to look for is the enemy team jumping one of your allies. That's the best way to hit arrows, because generally, when the enemy team jumps your ally, what's going to happen is that they stand still, and that's what we see in this fight here. He throws in an arrow, it happens to connect on the Void Spirit, pretty fortunate, but because of that, they're able to follow it up and secure a kill onto a pretty mobile hero. Following that up, we're going to see the fight continue on, and really what I want to note is the same exact thing. Tim's is not going to blind throw arrows, and sure, he's generally using them off cooldown, but the main thing to note here is that once again, he sees that the Troll Warlord is going to man up, right? They're stuck in this little area, and he's going to man up on the Monkey King, and because of it, he hits another long arrow, and they secure another kill onto the enemy team. So basically, you're looking for people to line up in congested areas, and for them to go on your teammates. That's the best way to basically hit arrows. And here I really want to show off the patience of Tim's. I love this. I really do love this play, because a lot of MIRANAs, they instantly throw their arrow. I know most of you guys probably do this. It's a big habit of players. They're like, oh, it's a skill shot. I might as well get it off cooldown. And that's actually not necessarily a terrible mentality, but at the same time, what you're going to see here is that he doesn't instantly throw it at the Earthshaker. Even though he gets dueled, he's like, okay, Earthshaker's probably dead. So what does he do instead? He waits for the Diffusal Blade to come out from his Monkey King, follows it up with an arrow, and secures the kill onto the Troll. That's just such a great play because he saved it for so long. Now, usually I don't recommend saving spells, but he's able to control the most important hero in the fight, which is the Troll Warlord of the enemy team, because he had a little bit of patience. And for the next thing I want to mention, all I want to say is that I actually do think it's a pretty good idea to go for blind arrows when your team is going high ground. Because basically what this does is it changes a really bad fight, which is essentially any high ground fight, into a takeable one. And that's exactly what happens. He luckily hits the Void Spirit, who obviously he didn't see, but just guess would be on the high ground. They follow it up with the duel and the BKB, and they make a proper jump, which allows them to win the fight. On top of that, the mech keeps the TA and the Legion alive, and that's all, folks. I mean, really, I think MIRANA is one of these heroes where everyone has it backwards. They look at her as a skill shot that requires just really good luck, or, just some, I don't know, I guess some Jesus level of reading, right? You have to read people like a book. But not really. You want to go off this formula that I've hopefully given to you today, which is kill a lot of camps, get as much XP as possible, buy clarities, and then hit arrows based off people chasing your teammates. If you can do these things, I think you're going to have a pretty good game on MIRANA most games, because a lot of supports don't understand these concepts. They don't understand, how do I get farm? How do I be greedy and active at the same time? And if you really rewatch this video, as well as this Tim's replay that you can find on Dota Buff under his profile, it's the second game, down below, you're gonna learn. And this is how I recommend you guys learn and get better at Dota, because the impact he had this game is incredible. He's 5-0-10 with 82 CS, really good items. Honestly, my favorite item build on MIRANA, which is the mech and the Yules. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I recommend you check out the gameleap website down below. As per usual, I make content there a lot. Super educational, super fun stuff. A lot of good stuff in my opinion. So yeah, I recommend you check it out. It's good videos. See ya. And hey guys, remember, before you end this video, in the link down below, I've been playing a lot of live games where I talk about my thoughts in real time in the middle of a Dota match. So if you want to get in the head of a pro player, click the link down below to the gameleap website. Super cheap right now, right? And I'm doing this a ton. We all have time on our hands. I have time to make content. You guys probably have time to enjoy and learn Dota, get better at the game. So yeah, if that combo works for you, click the link down below and I'll see you there.